Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Sam and I make music under the name This New Light. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Now, I do apologize for the clickbaity style title of this video, but the truth is this song that we're going to look at today does have 2 million streams on Spotify, something which I'm very proud of, and it's happened to get to that milestone in a relatively small amount of time. So I thought that's reason enough to look at that song today. If you've never seen one of my videos before, I'm a musician, artist, and producer from the Sunshine Coast. And on my YouTube, at the moment, I'm really going to try and build out my production breakdowns. I love watching people on YouTube or mix with the masters where producers talk about how they made songs. And that's kind of what I'm going to do again today. I did it last week with my track First in Line, so please go have a watch of that video. But today we're going to look at a slightly older song called Hold Me Close. So let's jump straight into it. This is my Logic project here from I think about 2 years ago. I haven't really listened to this song since, so I'm really keen to kind of pull it apart and see how I produced it then. A bit of a disclaimer, I think I would produce this song very differently if I had, if I was working on it now. But I'm really keen to see what I did before and how that kind of, how that worked. And one more disclaimer, I want to record these videos as a first take, as best as I can. Now for today's episode, I recorded the whole 30 minutes. And then as I pulled up the file on my computer, I saw that it was shot in like 720p quality and it looked terrible. So today is actually the second take, but I won't be doing any cuts or changes or anything like that. So this is the track that we're going to get into. I just want to make sure it's all frozen and ready to go so that we can have a listen to it. But this track is called Hold Me Close. It recently got 2 million streams on Spotify and we're going to get straight into listening to it. So let's go.
Sleep coming towards me from the east. Chill in every fiber,
Okay, I'm going to stop there. Now, one thing that you could see me kind of adjusting as I was listening back, I now always mix and produce with a limiter on my master bus. And that is just because I think it's really important that when you're producing that you kind of hear something like a finished sound as you're working. So yeah, I just put that on there. It's probably not going to do too much for the moment, but I just feel like the volume level needed to be a little bit louder. Anyway, let's have a look straight away at the guitars that I've got on this track. Okay, so it's a pretty slow track with, let me show you this. There's a lot of tempo changes in this song, but we'll get to that in a sec. So let's have a listen to the electric guitars. I'll show you the guitar that I was actually recording. It is this, I'm holding it funny, but it's a electric Hofner from the 1950s or 60s, I believe. A beautiful guitar, and it's got a very cool acoustic sound. And I really like the low end and how kind of warm but jangly it sounds. So I'm just going to show you that the acoustic sound captured via a mic. So that is the main riff, I guess. It's played in standard tuning with the high E dropped down to a D. And all those little chops you can see there across this file are me trying to somewhat quantize it. I don't think it's perfect, but when you put some doubles in there, it kind of sounds okay. So that was recorded through a mic, just acoustically. And then what I've done from there is I've got two takes through the pickup, and they were panned hard left and right. An issue that I kind of had with this project was with all these significant time changes throughout the song, and all of these instruments having delays and reverbs. Every time a tempo change would happen, these delays would just change and react very quickly to it, and it would overload my computer. So in the end, when I exported this song, I had to print out all of these parts just so it wouldn't overload the computer. So in actual fact, we have the two electric guitar parts here. I've bounced them out, so they look like they're panned dead in the middle, but they're actually not. So here are the electric guitar parts. Cool. You can already hear some of those artifacts being added as my computer's trying to process this. But it's a really nice mix of that acoustic sound and the electric. I'll just show you that one more time. So we've got all those doubles, we've got the acoustic sound, and we've got the doubled amp kind of sound. Now, what did I put? I've got a delay, and I've got a reverb and some EQing there. So yeah, that's kind of how the guitars are sounding. Down here we have some EBO, which is a very cool little tool. I'll see if I can show you that here. It's this little toy, and it kind of creates a sustained note from a guitar string, and you kind of use this magnet, and it creates a sustained note from a guitar string. So let's hear a bit of that. It's very cool, and you kind of get all these textures from it that just don't really sound real. It's very cool. And underneath that we have this very cool Logic stock plugin, deep sub bass. And that is the bones of the song. Cool. All right, the next thing that I want to show you is very cool. Now, the only reason I can remember this is because I actually had a look at the file in the last version of this video. So I don't know if anyone out there knows a band called Hollow Coves, but one time I heard them talking about the pad that they put in their song Coastline, and they said that they actually sampled another song, sped up the entire track, EQ'd it, and put some reverb on, and turned it into a pad. Now, I used that concept and came up with my own pad, and I put my song, Trust Myself, into this crazy plug-in chain processing to get a pad. And this is what it sounds like. I'm pretty sure it's the intro of Trust Myself. And I just made a small loop. I put reverb on it. It's going to a bus of 18. See, I would have set these up very different. But aux 12. Look, to be honest, I think it's just going to a big reverb. But yeah, that's a track sped up and EQ'd. If I take this off, it sounds like this. The other thing that I did is I put the whole sample up the octave. I've transposed it up the octave. Well, that's 10 semitones. Obviously, I had to put it in the right key. So I've put it up about an octave and put a hard EQ on it. It's pretty cool. Underneath that, I have the Airways Logic pad, which is quite cool as well. It's very breathy and airy. It's very cool. Okay, the last thing I want to show you is some samples that I threw in from Splice. There's a little guitar riser, a riser again from Splice, and a white noise riser. I've got some pedal steel samples in there too from Splice, and they sound really cool. I continue to want pedal steel in almost all of my songs. Not all the time can I afford to pay someone to do it, but Splice, a big plug for them. $15 a month, and you get access to a huge library of free samples. Let's hear these sound effects here. Very cool. So you just kind of like chop up those samples and do what you need with them. Okay, let's have a look at the vocals. So this is probably a bit more of a normal vocal stack for me. I've got a main vocal and a left and a right. These are very wet, so let's have a listen to those.
Slate coming towards me from the haze.
Cool. So one thing that I will say now is if I were to produce these vocals again, I would have done them very differently. But what I've done in this instance is I've got some EQ, some compression, melodyne and pitch correction. That's all pretty stock standard. Maybe I would have chosen some different compressors, and maybe I would have EQ'd it a tiny bit differently. But they're all going out to a bus. So in my very basic understanding of producing, you've got buses and sends. And normally you would do a vocal send to get your reverb sound, and you can kind of control how much you're sending. I've actually bussed these out, and they go through 2 delays and 2 reverbs. So if I take all of this off, this is the vocal dry.
Slate coming towards me from the haze.
So the issue there is I don't have a lot of control of how much effect I'm sending. You can dial the mix thing in, but that's probably really bad technically to be doing that. Anyway, so we've got a lot of reverb and a lot of delay. For those playing at home that are really keen to kind of figure out what I was doing, there's like I can just stack up what's going on here. So it starts with
Slate coming towards me from the haze.
So I'm kind of doing a bit of a ping-pongy kind of 1/2, 1/4, and then I think there's a room reverb which is quite big, 3 seconds, yep, and then a plate which is also quite big. So anyway, I would definitely produce this differently, but that's kind of how it is. So those vocals stay the same kind of throughout, and then it goes into my head voice for that transition. But yeah, that's kind of the vocals. Another thing that I've noticed looking at this track, with Logic, the older I get, or the more I use it, sorry, that sounds a bit, anyway, the more I use Logic, the more I understand about the program and the less I understand. And at this time I thought I was kind of, at this time, I thought it was very clever to group things in folders, but I don't think I did summing stacks, which just means you can't edit the group as a whole. And I think that's a really powerful tool. So I'm pretty sure from memory I use summing stacks. So use those. Let me see if I can just show an example. So if I grab these two, I go create track stack. Yeah, I used to do folder stacks, definitely do summing stacks, because then I can actually now treat, those two, and I can take out just the lows or whatever. But use summing stacks. Okay. All right, let's go into the first chorus and see what happens.
Can you hold me close? Just to warm my bones.
Okay, so I think what's quite funny here is I've done that vocal performance and I didn't really say the S's loud enough, so I've got these takes to literally just be the S takes. I think that's quite a clever approach. Only thing that really changes for the chorus, I think, is that the guitars become a little bit drier and they're strummed, not plucked. That's probably the only big change. Sub bass is still there. The first chorus is pretty much the same as everything before. So nothing changes there. Let's go into the interlude. Same stuff again. Okay, so our track is kind of building here. So this is our verse percussion. Let's have a listen to this. Nice. It kind of sounds a little bit tribal. Let's kind of just go from here and just add things as we go. So we've got kind of like an orchestral sounding kick. Kind of like a African sounding kick. Just a droning sound. I'm calling it a drip click. I don't know why. Like a washy snare. Some texture with like some drumstick clicks. That would have been an actual cymbal that I was hitting in my friend's studio in Glasshouse. And then that's probably like a sample from Splice. So it's, you know, it's cool. It kind of suits it. We have the introduction of a strings part, which I cannot remember what it is. Sorry. I don't know what this part is. Oh, that's kind of cool. Ooh. Okay, this is a good opportunity to plug Labs, a wonderful plugin. Virtual instrument. I always get that wrong. Labs, Spitfire, audio, free virtual instrument, and just, you know, you can download all these free sounds, and these strings sound quite cool. So definitely give those a try. Okay, so I want to show you this piano track because this is really beautiful. I recorded this again in my friend Julian Munyard's home studio in Glasshouse Mountains, and I was rushing out the door one afternoon and I came up with this piano part, and it's just recorded on an iPhone. So let's have a listen to that. Really cool, hey? So you can hear the mechanisms going, which I think is so cool. I'm just going to show it to you dry. Really cool. So I've then just taken out all the lows because I wanted it to just sound like a bit more jangly, high MIDI kind of vibe. And then compression and reverb. That reverb's so cool. Honestly, the Valhalla Vintage Verb, highly recommend if you don't have it. And just literally the concert hall sometimes can sound incredible. But there's that piano. Okay, does anything else come in here? We've got some acoustic stuff. So let's just listen to all this from here. So more of the EBow that you can hear. And then just an acoustic steel string. I don't even remember what guitar this was. Played in standard tuning. It's E minor, D and C. We got some banjo coming in. A bit more of that EBow, quite cool. Ooh yeah. I just want to take a moment. Sometimes I watch producers talk about how they make music, and they'll say, you know, I just put a dB of compression on that track and nothing else. And I go, as if, you know, you've put EQ, you've put reverb, you put something. And this is a classic example. You know, I've worked on banjo parts for a few years now, And more recently, like, I'm trying some different approaches. But this is literally just panned and slightly compressed. And that sounds so cool. Like, it needs nothing. It doesn't need any EQ, and it sounds great. So I guess that's just a reminder that sometimes you actually don't need to put EQ on instruments. That sometimes it just sounds good. Sometimes you don't even need compression if it's played well. Okay, nothing really changes there. So let's now listen to this last outro and see how that changes. Tempo change.
Can you hold me close? Just to warm my bones.
Okay, I'll pause there. I love that reverb tail. How cool is that? Okay, so the big change from here is another tempo change. I think it's slightly faster than that first chorus. And we have the introduction of this sub kick. Okay, here. Let's just have a listen to the drums from here to the end. That's the sub kick. So we kind of have the introduction of an actual cymbal. So we're like, oh, is it going to be a real drum kit? Starting to build. Most of this was recorded with real instruments, and I've just sampled it. Okay, so what I notice about that is it's very muddy. There's not much clarity to it. But, you know, this is a prime example of, you know, people say stress less about the mix, you know, put the song out. Don't spend too long trying to perfect a song. It doesn't matter. This would have been a song that I thought I was perfecting, you know, and trying to get a really good mix. And now I'm listening back to it. I'm like, the drum mix is so muddy. It's so wet. There's like, there's nothing to like make it cut through and be punchy. But somehow it still works, and obviously it hasn't affected the success of the song. It's still being streamed quite a bit. So, you know, if you're at home and you're like, I need to do 20 more revisions of this song before it's going to be successful. The truth is, half the time the mix might not actually matter. So don't freak out. Let's go back to these keys parts. So this is kind of as this song is building. There's just some random, like, twinkling. I think this would have actually been an outtake that I just decided to throw in. So cool. Anyway, I was trying to make a little moment out of that, but the piano part and the vocal is so cool. Let's have a look at these guitars. So we kind of have these, you know, stock standard Hofner, and that does its thing for a bit. Banjo comes in, and then I really like this. I'll just solo this kind of. We have this Strat come in, and I just notice how clean it is. I'm pretty sure it was a Strat. So nice. Just like a really tasty line. And I'll just show you the electrics as well at the end. Maybe I can just grab these. Electric guitar shredding. Yeah, that's cool. I like that I've done that, and they look pretty dry. Oh no, I lie. They have about 7 plugins on them, but that in my, I'm listening back and I'm like, they sound pretty dry. But yeah, they're like overdriven, and that's kind of cool. Once again, I hope that this whole thing hasn't just been a yap fest. And you guys are like, come on, talk about something legit. So we've got the guitars, we've got the vocals. The piano's cool at the end. Maybe I can just play the Oh yeah, have I done this yet? Oh yeah, I've shown you the drums. Okay, all right, that's good. I'll just play you the keys at the end because I think they're really cool. So chopped up. Yeah, there you go. That's Hold Me Close. I am. Once again, I'm surprised. Sometimes you just make a decision in the moment and it works. And sometimes you come back to a mix and you're like, it sounds pretty average, but it still landed. Something I'm really proud of myself on for this track in particular is there's actually, if I look at the tracks, there's 63. There's 63 tracks and, 67 with the buses. And for me, that's a very minimal song. And I'm actually really proud of, trying to produce with very few tracks. I could bounce this all down and it would be 3 vocal takes instead of 12, which I probably would be doing nowadays. Some of these guitar tracks are literally just to make sure computer processing doesn't slow down. But there's very few ingredients here, but all of them feel really big. So maybe what I'll just do is I'll just play you this outro and do a little fade out. But guys, thanks so much for listening and watching this video. Please chuck a comment below if there's a song you would really like me to talk about in the next video. I really enjoy doing this, and I hope you guys have enjoyed it too. But yeah, chuck us a like and a subscribe. Send me a DM on Instagram, that'd be sick. And please go listen to this song and the rest of my discography on Spotify. That would mean the absolute world to me. But yep, this is just me, Sam, from the Sunshine Coast, signing off on another YouTube video. Thanks so much, guys. Enjoy the rest of your morning, day, afternoon, night. And this is the last bit of Hold Me Close.